Good afternoon. Happy Monday. Today is Monday, November the 16th, 2020. Next week is Thanksgiving already. So, as I stated last week on Monday Money Matters, we talked about credit card debt. And I indicated that we would be talking about debt settlement today. And that's what we are going to do on today's edition of Monday Money Matters. We are going to talk about debt settlement. Again, I am Lisa Terry with Financial Pathways of the Piedmont, and I hope that you find this information helpful. So, debt settlement, pros and cons. Pros, it can definitely help you lower debt, lower the amount that you owe anyway. It can help you avoid bankruptcy, and it can get those pesky creditor calls and collection calls from stopping. And overall, it can look appealing to other creditors to see that you have at least managed and kept your obligation at some level to your prior debtors, creditors. The cons to debt settlement is that there can be creditors that will not agree to any settlement at all. Doesn't matter how old the debt is, doesn't matter how much the debt is. Not all creditors are required or obligated to come to some type of negotiation or settlement with regards to your debt. If you remember, and if you read the small print, the fine print, anytime you signed up for a credit card, signed up for a loan, there were disclosures and agreements that you agreed upon that you would pay the debt back as stated in the agreement. So most of the time, creditors may offer settlements as a courtesy because at least getting something is better than nothing. But again, there is no regulation, rule, or law that indicates that a creditor has to negotiate and has to agree to any type of settlement. You could end up with more debt than what you started with the addition of added fees, interest, etc. And I'll go more into that here in a moment. And it will definitely, obviously, anytime you don't pay a debt, it's going to impact your credit. Debt settlement can also impact your credit, both positively and negatively, all depending on how another creditor reviews how they view that, how they view a settlement. Some may think that, again, that was, you didn't really pay all of your obligation, but you paid some of it, better than nothing. Some, may be like, a debt settlement is not positive at all. And normally it will also report on your credit report that a debt was settled for less than the full balance. So that right there lets other creditors know that there was a debt settlement that occurred on that particular account. Now, the other thing to be very careful about, and there's lots of information out there, especially on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's website, which is a great resource for all things consumer debt, is to be very careful in dealing with debt settlement companies. You will see commercials, advertisements, social media, receive emails all the time about debt settlement. I think there's one right now that says that you are you have the right to debt settlement. No, you really don't. There are plenty of debt settlement companies that would like for you to believe that, because most debt settlement companies are for-profit companies. So that means they are looking to make a profit, make revenues off of their client and customer, their clientele. Debt settlement programs usually will involve at some point in time the creditors that you owe, but essentially what happens is a debt settlement company wants you to sign up for their service. There's usually going to be either a monthly fee or a one-time or two-time fee, and then they want to set you up on automatic payments or drafts. so that your payments every month go into an account, kind of like a trust account that they're holding for you, that will also be interest bearing. So, of course, they're going to be earning interest off of those deposits, with the hopes that over the next 2 to 3 years of payments, when you have built up a large enough deposit, that will then give you that will give them, the debt settlement company, the negotiating leverage to come up with some type of settlement, now that you have acquired over a lengthy period of time the amount of money to justify a settlement. Mind you, during this entire period of monthly deposits, they're also telling you not to pay your current creditors. So that means you're getting regular negative reporting on your credit report. Collection calls can still occur. You can even be sued for the debt in the process of thinking that you're working on a debt settlement. So debt settlement companies, you need to be very leery about those. And a lot of the settling and the negotiating, we can all do ourselves. You can do it yourself for free with no additional cost other than what the actual settlement amount is itself. Because creditors have no obligations to agree to a settlement, now you have paid a monthly fee or a monthly payment to this debt settlement company that will be sitting there earning interest for them with no guarantee that the creditors are going to agree to a settlement. So now they have your money, your funds that you could be using on other living expenses or negotiating your own settlements. And because debt settlement companies will often encourage or ask you to stop sending payments directly to the creditors, again, like I said, that will further impact your credit and other consequences. So things to think about when you do try to contact, or if you're interested in finding out about debt settlement companies, is being aware of what they are guaranteeing, because again, no one can guarantee what a creditor will or will not agree to negotiate any type of settlement. So what kind of charges are they going to charge, fees, before your debt even settles? Especially, now with technology being the way that it is, anybody, any creditor, any collection agency, any company, any scam artist can create all kinds of legitimate looking marketing materials, letters, copying and pasting logos, make it sound like they are federally backed or funded programs, government programs, things of that nature. You can get very official looking documentation in the mail, and it looks like it may be on the up and up, but a lot of times it may not be. Anyone that guarantees that they can make your unsecured debt go away, that's a huge red flag. Run. If they tell you to stop communicating with your creditors, that's another red flag, because then they're not also explaining what the consequences are if you don't. Remember, your agreement, your initial original agreement, is with the creditor. It is not with the debt settlement company. So knowing what those terms and agreements and all the fine print is going to be crucial. But your debt is with that creditor. If they tell you that it can stop all collection calls and lawsuits, that's also a red flag, because again, your obligation is to the creditor. Your contract is with the creditor. Once you stop paying the creditor and you're paying someone else, thinking that they're going to deal with it for you, that is basically negating your obligation. And guarantees that your unsecured debts can be paid pennies to the dollar. Now, yes, sometimes you can get some really good settlements on your own, etc. Or sometimes they may even mail offers to you. Your creditors or collection agencies may mail offers to you. And a lot of times, ironically, you'll get them around tax time, because with tax refunds, that's a good opportunity to have a larger sum of cash available that you may have the capability of negotiating settlements, because you have the upfront cash to do so. But just also know that whether you negotiate the settlements or not, or a debt settlement company does, there is the potential and the possibility of tax consequences. So anytime you are offered and approved for a debt settlement, the company, the creditor, has the ability to, as they write off that forgiven amount that you're not paying, they can write that off and issue you a 1099, and you have to report that as income. So depending on the amount of the forgiven debt that was now written off or settled upon, that could really put someone into a different tax bracket completely, especially if you have high levels of debt that's being negotiated, or if you have multiple accounts that may turn into a 1099. So you want to talk to your credit card companies to even find out what your options are. Now, I will say that with the history and the experience that I have in this arena, that sometimes even asking a collection agency or a credit card company, hey, are you going to send me a 1099 for this? They may or may not even answer. The people that are calling you, the customer service agents that are contacting you and that you're speaking to and that you're making these arrangements with, they may not even be the ones deciding that. So they may not even be aware of that. Some of the disclosures may indicate that you have the potential of receiving. So again, that's just a risk that you are basically willing to take if you do agree to any type of debt settlement. Like I said, tax refunds may be a good time. And when we think about settlements too, more or less, this is going to be more feasible and more applicable for old debt, for old collections. Collections that have still been sitting there for a while. Sometimes, you may be able to work something out for the newer collections, but if you have accounts that are in good standing, obviously this is not going to be the time to negotiate settlements. If you're paying your credit cards on time, and all of your payments are on time, even though it's a struggle, and you may be having to rob Peter to pay Paul, and you are just getting really creative in your resources and managing, the credit card company doesn't see that you're experiencing some kind of hardship because you are paying on time. So most of the time when we are talking about negotiating settlements, other alternatives to paying the debt other than full payments, full balances, that's usually after you've acquired or experienced some type of financial hardship over a period of time that is now put your accounts into delinquency status, default status, possibly into collection status already, and possibly already charged off. A lot of times those are going to be the accounts that are best to settle. The older, sometimes the better. And a lot of times too, it also depends on what the overall goals are of you as the consumer and what it is that you're trying to do, and the reasons why you are trying to take care of these debts. We definitely want to make sure that everyone manages their current and their personal finances first and foremost, that their housing is taken care of, their food is taken care of, clothing, medication, children, things of that nature. Only when you have excess or surplus funds after all of your obligations and essentials are taken care of, should you be really considering paying extra or paying down old debt. You don't want to not pay something right now to pay something off that's old. Sitting with a counselor, like with one of us here at Financial Pathways of the Piedmont, reviewing a credit report to even prioritize what is showing up on your credit. Are the collections that are being called upon legitimate? There are cases of scams and fraud where scammers will call and make it sound like you owe a debt. And if you're unclear or unsure, you may fall for it and think that you do owe something. I've actually seen that happen before with a client. So sitting down with someone, prioritizing what's on your credit report, what should you tackle first, what the consequences are. Chances are if it's already been on your credit report for a while, it's already affected your credit. It may be now that you're needing to take care of some credit because you're trying to move forward in some other areas. So being able to pay some things off on your credit is an important step in order to do that. So definitely reviewing your credit report first to make sure what's on there. Some alternatives to debt settlement would be things like negotiating your own, obviously, without going through a debt settlement company, which is we really frown upon those just because of the extra fees involved. Transfer balances. Now, of course, this is only going to be for people that are currently in good standing with the accounts that they have. And so maybe, for instance, you have a couple of credit cards with a 24-25% interest rate, but your local credit union offers a small debt consolidation loan and it's at 9%. And so you are still able to make your payments on time and your credit is still in good standing, because anytime you do a balance transfer or apply for any kind of transfer or a debt consolidation, it is going to be based on your credit. So this is going to be only for those that their credit has not yet been affected by the inability to pay the obligatory amounts. And sometimes just doing a balance transfer can be helpful in that you've transferred it now to a lower interest rate account. So of course now less is going to interest and more is going to principal. Seek nonprofit credit counseling agency like us at Financial Pathways of the Piedmont. A counselor will sit down with you, go over your budget, comprehensive, all the everything. Every expense that you can think of, we really try to pull all of that out so that you have a very comprehensive budget. We look at income, averages, any bonuses, raises, anything, so that we have a very comprehensive money in, money out. And a lot of times just seeing that on paper for the first time can be eye-opening enough. And then additional steps in trying to really tie down a really accurate budget for those of us that may not be completely sure. So definitely the steps to take would be, first and foremost, review a credit report, see what's on there, see what you have that needs to be taken care of, that you're willing to, that you have the access and the means to pay down or pay off. Maybe talk to the creditors, the collection agencies directly, find out what they're willing to do. A lot of times too with debt settlements, whether you negotiate them or not, well, especially if you negotiate them, normally they're going to want the full amount that they've agreed upon up front, or they may break it down in maybe 3 months payments, usually not longer than 6. So if it's a large amount, if you don't have it, it doesn't matter if they agree to it or not anyway, because if you don't have the agreed upon amount, it's not going to matter. So if they allow installment payments, that can make it a little bit more helpful. That's why I say at refund time, tax refund time, that's usually a good time that affords you some leverage to be able to do some negotiating. So I hope that some of that information was helpful. It's very important to stay on top of these things, especially as you roll into some new endeavors into home ownership, asset building, just managing your funds appropriately, using a good balance of credit, and just making sure that you keep everything on track. And again, you don't have to be in crisis to come and meet with a credit counselor. And obviously when I say come and meet, we're doing everything still by phone or virtual due to the pandemic. So if there's anything that we can help you with, or if you have questions, you can give us a call at 336-896-1191. You can go to our website at financialpaths.org. We now have a link on our site that will take you directly to our online portal where you can enter all of your information. Once you submit it, it comes into our system, and our appointment scheduler will contact you to schedule that appointment. The more detailed information and kind of the reason why you're seeking our services would be helpful, but obviously the counselor will get more into detail with you once they meet with you. You can also email info@financialpaths.org, and that also comes to our appointment scheduler, and she can reach out to you to also schedule that appointment. We also have our PDF fillable paperwork appointment packets on our website as well under the resource link. Thank you very much. I hope everyone have a great day, has a great day, and enjoy some sunshine. And I will see you next week. Thank you.